Hello, everyone, and welcome to Reimagine Wellbeing 2022. My name is Ivan Palomino.
And I'm Elena.
We are the co-founders of Besser. Besser means to improve in German. And what we believe is that if we understand how the brain works, we can help people to make the necessary changes in a way that sticks. And that applies simply to how to manage your well-being, how to create a growth mindset, or to simply just learn your stuff. And that's what we do, in fact. We help people learn how to change, to practice human skills, to get the mindset for growth, and get the resilience that is necessary to perform at your best at work.
Reimagine Wellbeing is a storytelling event about humans and well-being. We wanted to raise awareness on well-being, but something different beyond the autonomous talks or webinars. A storytelling with an open, fun, and informal online event to bring reflection and action to the future of well-being. Presented by 10 recognized professionals sharing their ambition to drive change and well-being. Short, impactful, and game-changing stories told in 20 slides in less than 7 minutes. In 2021, we launched our first Reimagine Wellbeing event. You can even check it out on our YouTube channel, which took place in October 2021. The event was attended by over 500 participants. 10 cool speakers presented visually what well-being meant to them. The event was a great success, and we're super excited to do it again this year.
But what does well-being mean to us, Elena? Well-being to us is beyond just mental and physical health. It is about our connection with others, our purpose in work and life, our relationships in our lives, our mindset, and all these aspirations that we want to be, so the possibility to be anything that we dream of. Well-being is not only about your individual effort. Impact can only be reached through our collective acknowledgement, society purpose, and organizations active in the action. Our aim is to create a community of well-being change makers that can drive inspiration in each of us to do better as individuals, organizations, and in our communities at large. But you know what? I think it is time to start with our lineup for this year. I'm super excited. Let's rock and roll. I am super excited of introducing Dr. Louise Lambert. She's a psychologist and one of the most recognized researchers in positive psychology. She's also the editor of the Middle East Journal of Positive Psychology, and she has been a contributor in many, many books. She's also the author of the first regional book on positive psychology. Today, she will be speaking about happiness and purpose in a very unconventional way. Happy to have you with us.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this event. My name is Dr. Louise Lambert with happinessmatters.org, and this is my well-being journey. I started out in Canada. Yeah, cold, lonely, a little bit isolating, but kind of beautiful when you think about it. Just not a whole lot to do other than run. So part of my journey started running marathons and trying to think about how I could get faster, how I could get better. And so I started to do a lot of reading on how can I improve productivity? How could I improve my performance? How could I improve how I feel and how vital and energized I feel as well? Through that reading and through marathon running, I also decided to start my doctorate degree, in which I discovered my first course in positive psychology, which got me really excited because suddenly I was starting to put these elements together to discover how humans can reach their highest heights and not only focus on their lowest lows. I am already a psychologist and so was also working in the same area running depression groups. And if you think that sounds a little bit depressing, it kind of is. So I decided, what if I took positive psychology, again, the science of well-being, and use this in depression groups so that we were not only teaching people to be less depressed, but happier. And what I started to notice is instead of having people come back year after year to say, I think I need another checkup, what they would instead send was postcards saying, you remember that trip to France? I took it. Remember that guy? I married him. Remember that business idea I had? I opened it. And so the evidence was starting to accumulate and be pretty clear that we can teach people to be happier through what are called positive psychology interventions. And what I did was take a lot of that science, wrap it up, repackage it, and brought it to Dubai. Once I got here, then I moved on to doing more serious research, looking at what exactly are the contributors to life satisfaction or subjective well-being here in the region, but also do these strategies work in other parts of the world? And it turns out, yes, they do. And they also hold over time. I also published a number of books, opened up the Middle East Journal of Positive Psychology, which allows other researchers in the region to share and disseminate their research based here in the region as well on many of these same topics. However, what I've also noticed is in doing all of this work and in happiness becoming really super popular is that it's been taken over in part by what we call the happiness industry. And I know these are well-meaning, well-intentioned people, but sometimes they don't read the same research that we do. And they make it seem like happiness is something everybody can do, that we can do all of these strategies. And if you're not as happy as you want to be, then it's all your fault. And actually, that pressure to be happy is really making us unhappy. And what the research is increasingly showing is that actually happiness is systemic. It is something we all do together. It's really hard to just be happy on your own because we're influenced by families, communities, neighborhoods, workplaces, classrooms. The people around us really have a big impact on us. Now, that doesn't mean happiness is impossible, but what it does mean is some contexts are much more challenging than others, but also happiness is the responsibility of everybody. And no, it's not all in your head. The other thing that I'm beginning to notice in the research literature, but also in my own journey, is the importance of planetary well-being. This is starting to become a big topic now everywhere for everybody, but also in the science of well-being, because much of what we do to be happy is in fact exactly what is driving climate change. And so this is requiring us as researchers, practitioners, but just individuals to start to reevaluate what it is we do and why, and how ought we to live if we can balance our own well-being and the well-being of the planet. Because if we can't breathe, if we don't have water to drink, nothing else really matters. So part of sustainable well-being is thinking of ways that we can be happy, fulfill our psychological needs for belonging and feeling good about ourselves, but not at the expense of the planet and not in superficial ways where we're focusing on status instead of genuine feeling good. And so my own journey has also caused me to think about how I live my own life. I used to be very focused on goals and growth and achieving and lots of movement. And now I focus more just on quality of life. I play tennis. That is not me on the left. However, I do take joy in hitting that ball really hard and spending the afternoon, especially in this beautiful Dubai weather, outside. Also growing tomatoes on my balcony, along with mint and basil and pineapples, I'll have you know, also grow in Dubai. And of course, sharing moments with my partner, with friends, and just enjoying life. So my parting words to you are, do what works for you, as long as it doesn't hurt you or others or the planet. Enjoy your journey, everyone. Bye-bye.
Allow me to introduce Ben Eubanks. He's a human capital management industry analyst, helping companies and vendors with advisory, strategic services, research, and more. He has worked as an influencer and analyst in this space for more than 10 years, with 7 of those in an independent capacity. His research really covers 2 buckets. One is the broad spectrum of technologies across talent and HR and learning. And the second one is sharing trends and practices within the employment world, where he regularly publishes research on findings and insights. And he gets these by incorporating responses from thousands of employers and nearly 10,000 workers in the last 10 years alone.
Hi, I'm Ben Eubanks, and today I want to talk to you about the myth of work-life balance. We've been told that it's really important to make sure we're getting enough of this and enough of that. And if we do it just right, if we do it just perfectly, we can balance out the things we have to do at work and the things we have to do in our life. But the truth is, we all know that that's really, really hard to do. It's really easy to start feeling stretched beyond all belief. If you say, I'm going to pour all I can into this, pour all I can into that, and try to make the most of all the things in our life, it really becomes pretty apparent pretty quickly that we can't make both of those things work at the same time. And I'll tell you, honestly and very personally, we inevitably have more things to do than we have time to do them. And it's easy to feel like you're standing there waiting for this giant wave to just crush you because there are more things that we want to do than we have time to actually get around and do those things. And if you look at some of the literature on this, you look at some of the research on this over the years, this is one of the models that you see pop up. It's kind of the wheel of life. We've been told if you want to be a well-rounded person, you have to solve all of these things. But is it possible to do all of these things all the time? I'd argue that it's really, really difficult to do that. I'll tell you, for me personally, this is the thing that's most important to me. This is my family, this is my crew, and this is where I prioritize my time. Right now, especially these young kids, it's been labor intensive, time intensive, all those things, but it's also something that I can never get back. I can't trade this for something else later on. Another concept that's really important to me is the idea of seasons. Right now, the season I'm in is a season of having small kids, of really pouring into them, of spending a lot of time with them. But later on, the season will be something else different. Maybe the season then is going to be focused on career, or the season then will be focused on growing my spiritual life or something else, my physical health. We have been told all of our careers that we just need to be more productive. If we have this hack, we have this strategy, we have this system, this tool, we can get more things done in less time, or more things done in the same amount of time. And the truth is that's just a myth. It's just a myth because we can't do that. We're not physically made for that. Warren Buffett, widely known as success, said very successful people say no to almost everything. And I love that concept because you have to say no to things so you can say yes to others. And it's not harmful or unpleasant. But if you think success means something else to you besides just business, think about these people. Each of these individuals and many, many others had the same amount of hours in the week as you or I, 168 hours in the week. And yet they focused on those things that mattered to them because they made an impact on the things they cared about. And I would encourage you to do the same thing. My counterpoint to the entire productivity myth is this amazing book I read a few years ago called 2 Awesome Hours. The big promise of the book is you can't use all of your time to be great all the time. So how do we get a couple of great hours of work every day and make sure we're prioritizing that time? And one of the big concepts in that book is when you are at your best, when you are at your most productive and most focused and most creative, use that time to do the things that matter the most to you. Hint, that's not your inbox. That's not responding to emails. That's not doing routine tasks. It's using that time to be your most creative self and solve the challenges that only you can solve. And then whatever you have left, whatever energy, time, creativity you have left, you can pour it into responding to email messages and other things. But you're not using that best time first thing in the morning when you are fresh and ready for whatever the world's going to throw at you. You're not burning all that mental energy on things that really aren't that important in the moment. I don't know about you, but this whole idea of FOMO, fear of missing out, is a real problem. It's easy to look at what everybody else is doing, especially with social media, and say, well, they're doing these things, I should be doing that too, right? They're able to achieve this perfect balance. It's not real. And it's a losing proposition to try to do both of those things. In my day job, I work as the Chief Research Officer for Lighthouse Research and Advisory, and we do studies across the workforce and across HR technology landscape. Let me tell you about some of the data that we have. We did a study last fall that said women took less time off because they were worried about how someone else would think if they took that time away from work. One of the other things we saw in the research is that people want flexibility more than anything else, but not just flexibility about where they are, where they're physically located to do their job, but flexibility around autonomy and how they make decisions, or in how they submit ideas for creativity and innovation. Goodness. One of the things that gets me is we've been told this metaphor, right? Put your mask on first. And I believe it's important to make sure we are practicing self-care and thinking about and caring for ourselves. I believe that. But I also think that there's a flaw, a fundamental flaw in this concept, because this is about just survival, right? The metaphor I like better is serving from a full cup. There's this amazing religious ceremony that requires you to pour until your cup is full, and then you keep pouring. And the symbolism is that we can only serve others if we have a full cup ourselves. That's the only way we can take care of them. And I like that because the mask is about surviving. This is about serving, and that's how we should be living our lives. And the data back that up. There was actually a research study done during the middle of COVID that said people who transitioned the best during the middle of all that were the ones who weren't inward focused, but were externally focused. They cared about others. They cared about serving and taking care of them. This can't be a purely selfish act. So I'll wrap with this. It's important for us as we're going through our lives to choose the big rocks. Choose the things that are big and important and specific intentionally, not accidentally. Make those choices with intent, because if you don't do it, someone else will choose what those priorities are for you. Instead of just trying to balance this all out, we fill the jars of our lives intentionally with the things that matter most to us. And if you change those out during a certain season, guess what? You can pull that out and put it back in later. Above all else, lead a life of joy and service, and you can't.
Our next speaker is Alexandra Kodjabachi. She's founder of Purse ED, which is a learning experience design enterprise unlocking human potential globally. She asks herself questions around how can she truly empower others to be who they are and yet still look to reach their own potential. And so her experience is attached on a map of connecting dots, that finding creative answers to questions such as these, contributing to the shifting paradigm of the ways in which we think, learn, work, and live.
Hello to you. This is Alexandra, founder of Purse, a creator of transformative learning experiences, and my personal favorite, Multi-Potentialite. Today, I will be telling you the story of how it is possible, despite the most dire circumstances, to somewhat keep your balance. Autumn 2019. I spent weeks in protests in Lebanon, protests that led to no significant or positive political change. Entering 2020, the signs of financial collapse are clearer than ever. Capital control means your money is not really yours anymore. So forget about buying things online. March 2020. The coronavirus is now a global pandemic that forces us into lockdown. Needless to say, the health and economic impact makes everything much worse. August 4, 2020. The third largest non-nuclear explosion in history shakes the Beirut port. Hundreds dead, thousands wounded, hundreds of thousands displaced. I went there a few hours later to help however I could, walked inside hospital corridors marked by blood, and offered support to patients and carers. We're operating in parking lots, August 8, 2020, I go with a friend to protest in support of those who died and those who lost their loved ones and their homes. We escaped rubber bullets and real bullets, but got heavily tear gassed. 2021 onwards, by now, we as a collective have lost money, hopes, loved ones, jobs, houses, cars. The currency has lost more than 94% of its value. Fuel shortage causes disruption across regions and services. Power cuts, bread shortage, internet problems, transportation issues, you name it. We could barely function. How to stay sane, how to stay balanced in a situation like that? Looking back, I tried to reflect on those 2 years, tried to understand what kept me going, what kept me smiling, living, producing. And I found 3 things. The first is alignment. Find alignment between who you are and what you do. When I committed to that years ago, it changed my life, made me better, happier, stronger, more resilient, more connected, more inspired, productive. It helped me collaborate with 140 plus individuals and organizations from more than 45 countries. And that gave me power. So find what gives you power, find your alignment, because it anchors you, it keeps you balanced. It also makes you feel lighter, as if you're seamlessly floating through space and time. So understand what you need at any moment in time and answer that need. Accept the moment as it is and do your best with it. With it, not against it. 2. Allies. It would have been much harder without all the conversations and collaborations that I had with people from all over the world. Every interaction felt like an otherworldly breath of fresh air. So find the people that inspire you, that push you, that partner with you to achieve great goals, that laugh with you, that ask you how you're doing, and be that person to others. Together you can create synergy, and that is when 1 + 1 is far more than 2. 3. Impact and momentum. When everything around you is negative, you need to create space for the positive to transform the vicious cycle into a virtuous cycle. And you can do that by building, by creating, by offering value. And value ultimately leads to impact. Something, someone, somewhere is transformed as a result of your work. What provided me with unbounded joy is knowing that there are people out there whose life was better because of the work that we've done. It builds power, momentum, it kept me going. So find meaning in what you do, or do the things that give you a sense of meaning. Value what is valuable to you and to those around you. I'm not saying that this is the only way to ensure that you're well when everything is unwell, but that has been my way. And I hope that you'll find in it some threads of inspiration and value. Thank you.
If you're enjoying this discussion and our speakers, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, where we post awesome content on different topics on a weekly basis. We also have podcasts, videos, articles, and if you're one of those people who prefer to read, you can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter. Every month, we give away 10 free resources on personal and professional growth.
Our next speaker is Abhijit Dabhade. He's the CEO of Geography. He's a man on a mission to transform well-being with analytics. Abhijit and his team have developed an analytical platform for assessing well-being and its impact on performance. It is a unique and innovative solution to provide people's insights to make change where it matters. Today, he will be telling us a very compelling story about building our purpose and making our own choices. Welcome, Abhijit.
I think, therefore I am. Centuries ago, Descartes left us with these wise words. Let me ask you this. What do I think that makes me who I am? Which are those thoughts that govern actions that make me as a person? I would like to draw your attention to three real personal experiences that I came across. December 2014. Around noontime, a young lady knocks at my room in my office in Bangalore, India. I am concerned about my child's academic performance and grades. I have been told you are the new management representative and would like to take cognizance of this. The next 10 minutes, I patiently heard her how the school is not helping her child perform well. I asked her, "What is your child's name and what class is she in?" The parent said, "Class 1. Yes, she was worried about her child's academic performance at grade 1. Let me share another experience. A few years back, I was involved in running a sports management degree program. We would have an interview panel to evaluate and select best of the applications for admission to our program. A young student in second year of his engineering is pleading to us that he has traveled 2000 kilometers to Mumbai without his parents' knowledge, taken the entrance exam, wants to drop out of engineering. Please admit me in the sports program. I will not be a good engineer, but a good sports manager. And the third experience. A working professional is driving in a swanky sedan. He had offered to pull in with some of his colleagues and they are all chit-chatting on their way back home. They get stuck in traffic during the evening peak hours on the Western Express Highway. Sounds familiar? After about 40 minutes of chugging along, this young executive suddenly removes his seatbelt, starts hurling abuses at self, yells loudly, "I earn a 5-figure salary, I am supposedly successful, and this is the quality of life I live." He gets out of the car frustrated to the shock of his co-passengers and says, "I feel like running my way to home from here." Friends, let's connect the dots. What is it that is really happening here? Let me explain this. We tend to live our lives by what I call as conventional choices system of thinking. Our parenting, our society, peers, media influences us to make conventional choices to plan our careers, jobs, family, relationships. Every major decision, even choice of a holiday destination, is influenced by external standards. Therefore, I ask, what do I think that makes me who I am? It's not about the external standards, but internal standards. Your own emotions, feelings about yourself should govern the choices and major decisions of your life. As you sit to analyze key aspects of your job, career, relationships, health, ask yourself the following questions. Have I taken these decisions based on external influence or internal voice? What is it that makes me really happy without noticing how 8 hours of work pass by? Am I a part of a relationship, personal or professional, just because I have to be part of it? Really, do I have to be part of it? Which is the activity I used to enjoy in my childhood on a holiday? What if I'm given a choice not to worry about monthly expenses or my loans? What is the kind of work that I would like to do? Let success be driven by your own purpose, by your own meaning of life, your own choices. When you make these choices, which are true choices, start developing a positive self talk and keep asking yourself, is it out of demand from external factors or is it your inner calling? This simple self questioning will help you deal with conventional choices dilemma. Friends, therefore I say, one step of introspection are 1,000 steps towards true well being. Thank you.
I would like to welcome Anna Toroman. Anna is an emotional intelligence strategist. She is an HR advisor on scaling up emotional intelligent organizations. Her professional journey began in educational organizations and then moved to the corporate world. She has been helping organizations all across China, Europe, and the Middle East. Today, the topic is quite relevant for any of us. It is about how emotional intelligence can improve your well-being, and specifically how self-awareness can be leveraged as a tool to regain control of our lives. Welcome, Anna.
Hi, and thank you for being here today. I'm Anna Toroman, HR trainer and emotional intelligence coach. And I'm here to speak to you about how emotional intelligence is related to our sense of well-being. What I do as a coach, I help people realize what they value most, what they strive for, so their life can have a deeper meaning. Which is why this is going to be about the importance of self-awareness. When it comes to well-being, it's important to know that it is a lot about awareness, the one we have of ourselves and of others. Now let's begin from the fact that our emotional states, the moods we're in, are impacting our quality of life. As an example, do you know someone who is always worried with what might happen if they don't finish this or that, especially at work? And to you, it seems that they're just unnecessarily worrying. But it's easier for us to spot behavior patterns in others than it is to see them in ourselves, even when they're less obvious than this example may be. Our brains just don't always allow us to see the reality. I had a client who was getting easily upset, but that's not how he saw himself. He believed that he got upset sometimes, when in traffic or similar situations, but definitely not very often. And we were talking and coaching, and I asked him to start journaling. And after 2 weeks, we talked again. It turned out it was not sometimes, it was most of the time, and on almost every single day, he got upset about something. But he didn't see it that way. I didn't realize the impact it had on his entire life. And this is important because only when you're aware of your patterns, your emotional triggers that influence your life and your well-being, only then you can do something about it. Sounds very logical, and yet, how much of self-awareness do we actually have? Everything you think or do is connected to an emotion, a pleasant or an unpleasant one. Your thoughts, behaviors, decisions you make, what's going to be your next meal, they're all based on what you think and feel and on the level of your self-awareness too. This is why whatever has the power to put you in a certain mood, it impacts your well-being at the same time. When you have high level of self-awareness, you realize how thoughts you have, the words you say, habits you have, how they all together impact the relationships with people and your well-being. If you still believe you have lots of self-awareness, I want you to try this. Think of the last time you were really excited. Can you describe your exact reaction when you're in that moment? And how accurately can you do it? By that, I mean, can you name all of your emotions at that moment? Your facial expressions, your body language, words you use. What about when you're angry? Chances are not so many of us could do that accurately. Why? Because to be able to do that, we need to have high self-awareness. And this might come as a bit shocking to some, but the research data reveals that 95% of people believe they're self-aware, but the actual number is up to 15% only. That means, and I will quote, about 80% of people are constantly lying to themselves about themselves. Fortunately, self-awareness is a skill that can be developed. It's crucial for creating your well-being. Here is another example. Some of us believe that it is rude to interrupt others when they speak. Do you think that everyone has the same belief? Well, no. But what happens when someone interrupts you and you are triggered by it? What happens is emotional triggers like this can instantly put you out of your state of emotional well-being so that it's out of the window in just a few seconds. And depending on how you will react, well, maybe even your social well-being is out of the window too, if you decide perhaps to teach that someone a lesson. All aspects of well-being are equally important, your physical, emotional, social well-being, as the relationships you have in your life are directly related to your sense of life satisfaction. If you are aware of your triggers, beliefs, your strengths, your shortcomings, the role that they are playing in your relationships with people, only then you will be able to create your well-being and to consciously make decisions that can improve it. Well-being can be measured, and our emotional intelligence can be measured too. We can also learn to develop it. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, all of these strategies to increase well-being should not be there to help us fix something or to serve as a coping mechanism for stress. They're here to teach us that we can create healthier relationships with ourselves and with others, that we can increase our quality of life and create genuine and lasting sense of well-being. Thank you.
Let me introduce you to Fiona McKinnon. She is the CEO of the Moment Company. She is on a mission to reduce stress through mindful micropauses. Fiona and her team at the Moment Company have developed mental well-being products that help reduce stress by making the benefits of mindfulness, meditation, and breath work simple, quick, and effective. They have created this, the Moment Pebble, a beautifully designed natural stone breathing device that reminds us, all of us, to take mindful short breaks throughout the day. Now, for today, Fiona is going to be sharing her personal story on how mindfulness have changed her life. Welcome, Fiona.
Hello, I'm Fiona McKinnon, the CEO and co-founder of Moment Company. We run a mission to help reduce stress, anxiety, and burnout in the workplace. We do this using the power of the mindful micro moment, short regular breaks you can take throughout your day and away from screens. Everything we do can be stacked with existing habits and are simple, quick, and effective. This makes it easier for us firstly to do, and then importantly, to keep doing. There's an age-old saying that small steps add up to make a big difference over time, and that is the power of moments, and also beautifully reflects my own experience and well-being story. So here's a little bit about me, where I came from, the north of Scotland, what my passions are, family, friends, sport, travel, and beach life, and also shows what motivates me to share my experience and moments with others. The best testimonial I have is to tell you it worked for me, and from a very skeptical and unlikely starting point. I spent nearly 20 years in the advertising and media industry. I worked, lived, and traveled all over the world. I knew the password in every airport lounge. I was building startup businesses, working hard, playing hard, and living the supposed dream. I believed this was who I was. It sounded very glamorous until it wasn't anymore. I was exhausted, burnt out, and didn't have the tools or awareness to slow down, set boundaries in toxic work environments, and did not know I could actually say no. I had no well-being practice beyond extreme exercise and dirty vodka martinis, and did not believe that meditation and therapy were for me. Stress took its toll, and I suffered a physical breakdown. My adrenal function and cortisol levels were severely deficient, leaving me exhausted and susceptible to illness. After a period of rest, I became curious about what had happened to me and how I could prevent myself reaching these extremes again. I'd been given The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle to read, but it felt like too big an entry point to unpick my brain. However, it did give me an open mind to figure out what could work for me, and so my wellbeing story started. My first big moment was finding a voice that resonated. I was lucky to find 4. Abraham Hicks, Marianne Williamson, Shawn Achor, and Brene Brown. I read and listened to everything. The work of these 4 authors changed my opinion of what self-help and healing was, and ultimately led me to try meditation, breathwork, mindfulness, to learn Reiki, and to become an NLP practitioner. Brene's work on vulnerability gave me the courage to talk about my own challenges and to realize that being opened creates the space for others to share as well. The next leap came when I was encouraged to try transcendental meditation. I thought, if it works for Hugh Katie and Oprah, what's the harm? It changed my opinion that meditation was for chilled out hippie types only and could also be channeled into areas of work, focus, energy, and performance. If you know a little bit about some of the faces here, you might also know another connection. Many of them are in recovery. My friend who first introduced me to meditation had been on this journey herself. Scottish hardcore partier to non-drinking meditator, and I did not believe her when she said it could happen to me, but it did. Sobriety has moved me along the ladder higher and faster than I could ever have imagined. And coupled with meditation, it's taught me to live more mindfully, to be more present in everything I do. Yes, you feel everything more, but that means the good stuff too. Shortly after I became sober, I quit the corporate world and set up a wellbeing business to share the shorthand ways I have learned that taking mindful micropauses or moments throughout the day help create the space you need to change your outlook. Before we look at the wellbeing solution I use every day, let's go back and address the main mental wellbeing challenge we all face as humans. We think. We have up to 60,000 thoughts a day. 95% of them are the same ones we had yesterday, and 80% of those are thought to be negative. We can't ever switch these off completely, even in meditation. We are pre-programmed to almost live our lives on repeat. Furthermore, did you know we only feel the initial chemical reaction to a stressful situation in our bodies for 90 seconds? After that first rush, everything we feel thereafter, we are choosing to replay over and over. When you combine these two facts, you start to understand why negative thought patterns can spiral and take over parts of your life. Your thoughts become your reality as your body receives a signal that you are under attack and stress. So if we can't think our way out of stress and negative patterns, what's the answer? We need to let our bodies do the talking with our internal circuit breaker, our breath. A deep conscious breath stimulates the vagus nerve, calms the heart rate, and creates a moment of space, a window of calm that you can move forward from a place of clarity. You can choose now what comes next. A calmer response, more rational thought, a better decision made. And every time we do this, we are breaking those old thought patterns and habits and creating new ones, new repeatable positive moments. We have made a change from yesterday that will be repeated tomorrow. This is how habit stacking, life-changing moments happen, slowly over time until they become your way of life. I wanted to end with a quote from one of my favourite authors, Abraham Hicks. "The main event has never been the manifestation. The main event has always been the way you feel, moment by moment, because that's what life is."
Sometimes it is difficult to spot the change makers. We often look for them in the senior executive leadership in those high positions. But in fact, who we're talking about are the ones that are actually doing actions that are important to make people feel their best at work. And these people do what is right for their organization, regardless of jobs, job titles, or job descriptions. And we all want to have these heroes that are recognized in a simple, valuable way. A choice by the people that were impacted by these brave actions. In these times of change, the work of HR people must be recognized. And this is where we want to introduce a new initiative that's called Simply Human Awards, recognizing HR professionals making an impact.
As of today, you can nominate HR people regardless of any level in 3 categories. But we need to have people who did actions, not just ideas, actions beyond the call of duty and had real impact on people. So the 3 categories that we have is well-being at work, great cultures, and people's development. And you know what? It is not about the prizes, but what we want to do is creating inspiration for others. We want to share the personal stories of these brave heroes so that together we can do a better working place. Nominations are, as of today, open. We will be validating these nominations and communicating their personal journeys as of the 1st of June. So if you have someone in mind, anyone in human resources who did anything that was wonderful for people, go to our page, the link is just below, and nominate.
Our next speaker is Moises Santos. Moises is an entrepreneur on a mission to reform education. His journey began as a middle school teacher in the Bronx, where he has experienced the inefficiencies and the limitations of education for 10 years. In that experience, a spark to reform education began. He left his career as a tenured teacher to begin the journey of building a school that reimagines education for both adults and children in the United States. Moises is now the co-owner of a mindset education company called the Vida Project. Driven to inspire individuals who seek to live their dream life by expanding their mindset. With the first school of adult transformation of wellness, Moises and his partner Rancis are building one of the most proven methods of creating life-lasting changes in individuals at scale.
I'm going to speak on the science behind mindset and how we can access human potential by using our emotions. By the end of this presentation, you'll learn how to gain access to the most powerful tool every human being has to their disposal. In 2018, I went on a trip to Hawaii with an ex-girlfriend, and we decided to go on one of the most dangerous trails that the island has to offer. And it was in this moment here that you see in this picture that I decided that it was time for us to turn around, that it was way too dangerous. The conditions that day were rainy, windy, and cloudy. It was very, very wet. And I just felt that it was way too dangerous for us to move on. She looked at me with disgust and disappointment and asked me, "Why are you so afraid? Why are you so afraid to be a man?" Several months later, we broke up. And this was the story and experience that replayed in my mind over and over and over again. And I questioned that belief because to an extent I believed her. I believed that I wasn't man enough because this was a reoccurring theme that happened in all of my relationships. And now here I am with heartbreak and the belief is still there. So this moment sparked my transformation. And I no longer identify with this individual. Why? Because of mindset. I really had to do a deep dive into understanding what mindset was. And the conclusion that I came to is that a mindset is a mental model of the world constructed by one's personal beliefs and assumptions. And the key words here are beliefs and assumptions. They serve as data points based on personal experiences to validate a behavior one would take in the world, but they're not true. So for example, heartbreak. The heartbreak I experienced was based on a belief that I wasn't man enough. It wasn't necessarily that was the woman that I desired to be for the rest of my life. But it was the belief that I wasn't man enough, and that the reason that I lost her was because of that belief, which then questioned who I was as an individual and what I had to offer, my worth. But the thing is, because this belief isn't true, why does it have so much influence over people's behavior? Because of emotions. Emotions are a very powerful tool, and to an extent, it's very misunderstood in its purpose when it comes to elevating one's consciousness and using it to thrive in life. And the reason is it's because it's energy. It's energy in motion, and that gives us a whole lot of potential because it's the driver for action. It's what we use to fuel behavior and action in the world. So every single decision that we make or that we decide to make, even the smallest ones, from deciding to eat on a snack or go to the bathroom, derives from an emotion. Let me explain. It starts with physiological responses. That's your heart rate, that's your respiration, that's your perspiration, that's your eye dilation, that's hormone secretion inside of the body, the things that occur inside of the body. And when you package those things up together, they create an emotion, energy in motion. This is executed by our peripheral nervous system, meaning that we're using our senses to gather information and create these responses inside the body. And when you package them up together, you create an emotion, and that emotion is designed for you to take an action. It's a suggestion. Now, however you're perceiving an experience will determine the label that you place on that emotion. So for example, if you're hungry, you hear your stomach growling, you feel your stomach growling, you feel tired, maybe you're getting sleepy. Well, you may associate that set of emotions or that set of physiological responses as hunger. And because you believe that it's time to eat based on your beliefs or based on your mindset or however you decide to live life, you're going to take an action. Maybe you're going to make yourself a sandwich. And this is how we make decisions every single day. It gets deeper and deeper as the stories and the experiences that we go through in life get more complicated. But essentially, it boils down to understanding our physiological responses, understanding our body. So essentially, to learn about your emotions is to learn about yourself, right? So there are two ways that you can do this. Introspective experiences. This is the use of our central nervous system or consciousness to create and understand our physiological responses. So for example, meeting new people, public speaking, failing at new ventures, writing, journaling, meditation. These are things where we use thought to create sensations in the body. And we can use that to understand how our dialogue, how our interactions with others create emotional responses in the body. The other way is extrospective experiences, the use of our peripheral nervous system to create and understand physiological responses. This is where we're using our senses to change the physiological responses in the body. Exercise, dance, fighting, sex, ice bath, anything that overloads our senses. And this is very powerful because you have control over that. What we're designed to do as human beings is to experience the earth, experience the world around us. So this is why exercise is one of the most powerful things you can do to learn about yourself. When you exercise, when you create movement, you're generating physiological responses in which it's going to generate more dialogue. It's going to generate thought. It's going to create beliefs within you. When you're going through discomfort, you're going to understand the sensations in your body. And what this does is it starts to build a mental model of who you desire to be, the identity you want to create. That person that's disciplined, that person that's strong, the person who's resilient and perseverant. And it solidifies that mental model with the physiological evidence. This is important evidence because now your body starts to believe the thought and believe the mental model. So at Vita Project, what my partner Rancis and I do is we create intention behind movement and exercise. We create a mindset aspect in where we design programs and lessons so that you can understand your thought. You can create awareness around your physiological responses, to understand your dialogue, to be vulnerable, to then question yourself and your mental model of the world so that you can create change in your mind. Because when you decide to change your mindset, the consequence of that change is the result. The better body, the healthier body, more money, better love life. Whatever that case may be, it's the understanding of yourself. It's the understanding of your emotions. And emotions are the number one tool that every human being has to their disposal to be able to create the life that they desire. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this event and be a part of Reimagining Wellness and Wellbeing. I'm very honored and grateful. My name is Moises Santos, mindset coach and teacher at Vita Project. If you want to know more about what we do, visit vitaproject.com or visit my Instagram at mindset_mechanic.
I am super excited to introduce my sister in crime, Elena Agaragimova. She is a recognized thought leader in talent development and education. She co-founded Beson with a simple idea that learning at work can be revolutionized with the use of brain science and technology, so that people actually use what they learn, and so that corporates stop wasting money with inefficient traditional training. The topic of today is quite relevant for the lifestyle that we all are living. It is about how to get 1% better daily on your well-being, aligning our body and mind human needs. Elena, come.
That is me on the left-hand side with a big bow on my head because that was cool and trendy back in the 80s growing up in Russia. On the right-hand side, you see my mom, my brother, and me. Of course, I'm the one stuffing my face because I was a foodie, always been a foodie to this day. I grew up in a family of professional athletes. My mom was a swimmer, my dad a wrestler. Both became masters of their respective sports. My brother then followed my mother's footsteps and became one of the great swimmers. I also grew up playing a few sports, from tennis to swimming to softball, and just being an overall active kid. I carried this through my childhood into adulthood, but never really appreciated the impact sports have on one's life until way later in life. When we think of well-being, we often think of as someone who is into yoga and meditation and eating healthy. And in the corporate world, we often even show our employees that we care about their well-being by offering Fitbits and yoga mats in the office. In the world of personal and professional development, we often discuss strategies about how to be more productive or grow your career or expand your network. We take endless trainings about how to build a personal brand. And all those things are great. And I love discussing these topics and helping people reach their desired goals. However, what I've learned in the last several years in this arena, working with hundreds of individuals around the globe, speaking on these topics at different conferences, and just really interacting with people that are trying to improve in different areas of their careers, is that it's one of the biggest blockers we have in achieving what we want is not the strategy or the execution necessarily. It starts even before we get there. It has to do with the basics that we so often neglect, that are the base of everything else. Those basics, no matter who we are, where we come from, what do we do for a living, what do we believe in, our mind and body. Now, hear me out. Sure, there's a lot of talk about diet and exercise, but let's look at it from a perspective of personal and professional development. If you're not getting adequate sleep, if you're stressed out, if you're overweight and struggle with body image, feeling bloated and don't have good energy, if you're eating processed foods and lack movement throughout your day, etc., how can you possibly be at your best? How can you be the best leader? How can you manage your emotions? How can you make social, solid, and effective decisions? Maybe you do that, but is it you being at your optimal best? Most likely not. Most likely you have some work that can be done to improve these areas of your life. Unless you are the David Goggins of this world that can run for hundreds of miles at a time. And even he would tell you that he's always pushing himself to be better. There's always room for improvement for all of us. And it doesn't have to be simply complicated. It's about choosing an activity that suits you. Maybe it's running, maybe it's just playing sports, or maybe it's going for a hike or a bike ride, or just a simple little walk. It's not about looking good or any of those superficial things. It's about feeling good inside and out. Just think of a time when you didn't get quality sleep or you ate something really heavy. How did you feel the next day? Your body communicates with you through these different feelings and hints. Listen to it. Now think of a time when you slept well, when your mind was refreshed, when you ate whole foods. I bet you felt much better. This is where we should aim, to feel good this way every day so we can be better for ourselves, which by default makes us better to those around us, our family, friends, colleagues, customers. Furthermore, our mental well-being often depends on those we spend most time with. Who is at your circle? Are you surrounded by the people that are active, take care of themselves, discuss ideas, new things, that are inspiring, that are excited about their work? Or does your circle consist of people who only see the dark side of things, who operate from a victim mindset and spend days judging and envious of others, instead of focusing on how they can be better each day? I encourage you to start auditing how you feel on a daily basis. Audit your sleep, your exercise habits or lack of. Audit your eating habits. Audit your environment, the people you surround yourself with. Where can you start making those small steps toward change for the better? Remember, change is not easy, but by making small daily changes, creating new good habits, and sometimes removing bad ones, and just aiming to be 1% better each day, or even just in a week, is all it takes to start making the change. Consistency and progress will help you stay disciplined. That is what sports are about. It took me 35 years to get to a point where I truly appreciate sports, because just getting those endorphins going will then help you be more mindful about how you feel, help you be more mindful about what you're eating, help you be more mindful of your emotions and your overall state of mind and body. My name is Elena Agaragimova. I'm the co-founder of Besson, talent development specialist and education advocate. I hope that you don't take so long wherever you are in your life. You don't wait to make this a priority. Our next speaker is Amando Brown. He's an inspirational executive director with over 30 years of experience delivering high-level education strategies across a range of complex sectors. He really embeds a deep knowledge of business development, planning, executive coaching, and people management in his support of organizations and helping them thrive. As a passionate leader and trusted collaborator, he has also empowered teams, fostered partnerships with a diverse group of stakeholders, and essentially just nurtured professional development through coaching and mentoring.
Hi everyone, my name is Amando Brown. I'm an education specialist, executive coach and entrepreneur. I want to talk to you briefly about perspective. It's often said that one man's rubbish is another man's treasure. When we try to decipher the character of an individual, we usually suggest that they are either a glass half full or a glass half empty type of individual. Do you see things from a positive perspective or a negative perspective? Your perspective will affect the way life impacts you. In 1998, I was a thriving, fit young man, excelling in my career as a policeman. Sadly, that was short-lived when I was met with a life-changing road traffic accident which ended my career in the police and changed the man that I'd been familiar with. I went from being fit and healthy to being registered disabled. Physically, I didn't recognise myself, and mentally, I couldn't comprehend the next steps of my life. The prognosis given to me by my spinal consultant was that I would eventually be in a wheelchair and limited to doing sedentary part-time jobs. So, what do you do when life distorts your view or changes the plans that you have? A well-known anecdote states, when life throws you lemons, make lemonade. That's exactly what I chose to do. Everything my consultant told me I would no longer be able to do is exactly what I went after. Yes, I was no longer a policeman, and yes, I had to retrain and start all over again, and yes, it was painful, and sometimes giving up would have been easy, but I didn't. I chose to keep looking forward and persevere. 12 operations later, and a complete career change, I was no longer registered disabled. Even better, the changes that were forced upon me were better for me. I wasn't risking my life every time I went out for work. 20 years later, I'd made lemonade. I have a successful, thriving business that's going from strength to strength. So how did I do it? By changing my perspective, I focused on the things that I could do rather than the things I couldn't. every task that was given to me, I saw it as an opportunity to shine, to make my mark and help others to leave theirs. This wasn't an overnight experience. It took blood, sweat, and sometimes even tears. But I did it, and it can be done. There's an excellent book by the author B.J. Fogg entitled Tiny Habits, where he simply explains how to progress whatever task you have to undertake by taking one step at a time. The easiest thing for us to do is to believe someone else's reality. And it's okay to see things from someone else's perspective, but don't stay there. Get your own perspective. Find your own path and make it work for you. Perspective is everything. Hold on to your own. Thank you.
We want to sincerely thank our wonderful speakers for inspiring stories that we can all take away something from, and for our audience for being here with us and helping us reimagine well-being together.
We hope that these stories have resonated with you. And remember, what is the scope of this? Is to have inspirational stories that we can lead through every single day of our lives. I hope that you have enjoyed it. By the way, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel to continue having inspirational stories, learning new stuff about managing yourself, your development, professional or personal. So subscribe to our YouTube, keep in touch. And by the way, and if you find someone that really could be inspired by this type of content, share it. You are part of our community now.